Good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss about Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon was one of the leading figure in natural philosophy and in the field of scientific methodology in the period of transition from the Renaissance to the early modern era. If the development of science has been the most consequential and progressive development in our history, then Francis Bacon has a claim on being one of history's most important and consequential thinker. He was the first to try to systematize what we now call induction, otherwise known as the scientific method. As a lawyer, member of parliament, and Queen's Counsel, Bacon wrote on questions of law, state and religion, as well as on contemporary politics. But he also published texts in which he speculated on possible conceptions of society, and he pondered question of ethics in the essays, uh, even in his work on natural philosophy in the advancement of learning. After his studies, Bacon did not take up a post at a university, but instead tried to start a political career. Bacon's international fame and influence spread when he focused his energy exclusively on his philosophical work. Bacon's work should be seen as a part of a widespread cultural revolution accelerated by the rise of the printing press in the 15th century. To the present day, Bacon is well known for his piece of writing on empiricist natural philosophy in the advancement of learning, Novum Organum, and Nova Atlantis. Here, empiricist means a person who supports the theory that all knowledge is based on experience derived from the senses. He is also known as one of the greatest masters of English prose. His prose is one of its kind. Nobody before or after him could really write English prose like Francis Bacon did. About Bacon's prose style, he begins without introduction or without preamble. Then another point is that he writes in aphorism or very short pithy sentence, and clarity of expression is yet another quality of his style. About Francis Bacon, I should also mention that he is not just a writer, but though he is known to us as a pro writer, as the author of the very famous essays, he was also a philosopher and a scientist. In fact, he was a man who has a mind that traveled much ahead of his time. And he was a scholar of Latin, and as I told, he was a scientist and a philosopher, and all that scholariness can be seen in the essays. About his biography, Francis Bacon was born in London. He went to Trinity College, Cambridge, where he sharply criticized the scholastic method of academic trainings. Bacon's small inheritance brought him into financial difficulties, so he embarked on a political career in the House of Commons, and he remained a member of parliament for 37 years. His involvement in high politics started when he wrote his first political memorandum, a letter of advice to Queen Elizabeth. About Bacon's prose style, Bacon brought a very unique style into prose writing. Now let us go on to Bacon's essay. Bacon borrowed the term essays from the French writer Michel de Montaigne, who was his contemporary, and it is said that he borrowed only the title essays. But then there stops all similarity between Montaigne and Bacon, because Montaigne's essays are intensely personal. He writes about his own feelings, his own opinions, what he felt about the world around him, and often about very personal experience. Whereas in the essay of Bacon, you will not find the man anywhere. Bacon was a keen observer of people and of the things around him, and he has written his essays on a variety of topics. Like, let me just tell you a few of the topics he has written on Of Truth. All his essay title like that: Of Truth, Of Marriage and Single Life, Of Love, Of Travel, of Youth and Age, and the list goes on. So that is what is difference about Bacon's essay in comparison to Montaigne. And again, Montaigne of course writes with an introduction, with a kind of a preface, but then Bacon just delves into the topic. He goes into the topic without much preamble. He does not bother about giving an introduction or telling us what he is going to talk about. He straight away jumps into whatever he wants to talk about. Now let's talk about his natural philosophy. Right from the beginning of his adult life, Bacon aimed at a revision of natural philosophy. Very early on, he tried to formulate outlines for a new system of science, emphasizing empirical method and laying the foundation for an applied science. Bacon had emphasized the necessity of scientific improvement and progress. He considered the possibility of giving up politics and concentrating on natural philosophy. Bacon devoted the last 5 years of his life entirely to his philosophical work. He died of pneumonia after experiments with ice. Now let's talk about his struggle with tradition. Very early on, he criticized not only Plato, Aristotle, and the Aristotelians, but also humanists and Renaissance scholars. He refused to accept any mixture of natural philosophy and divinity. He provides an outline for his new method. He rejects Aristotle's logic, which is based on his metaphysical theory. Bacon introduces his new systematic structure of the disciplines in the advancement of learning. Accordingly, he criticized the Cambridge University curriculum for placing too much emphasis on dialectical and sophistical training. Now, theory of the idols. According to Bacon, the human mind is not a tabula rasa. Instead of an idle plane for receiving an image of the world in toto, it's a crooked mirror on account of implicit distortions. Here, tabula rasa is often translated blank slate or without any pre-existing innate ideas. The images in our mind right from the beginning do not render an objective picture of the true object. Consequently, we have to improve our mind. He also criticizes preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. and false opinions, especially the system of speculation established by theologians as an obstacle to the progress of science. There is no finding without proof and no proof without finding. Idols are production of the human imagination caused by the crooked mirror of the human mind and thus are nothing more than untested generalities. Bacon ends his presentation of the idols in Novum Organum. He discusses the idols together with the problem of information gained through the senses, which must be corrected by the use of experiments. Bacon, he was fascinated by the scientific discovery of his days. Finally, the system of science. Interested in the question of what's useful, practical, the pursuit of improving our place in the world. He thought that the scholastic philosophy taught at the time was dry and closed off. Bacon was interested in causation. What causes something to be hot, for example? He is interested in understanding how these natural processes work through what he calls their form, like forms are the properties of something shape, something's color, its heat, its weight, for example. And he writes that for the form of a nature is such that if it is there, the given nature inevitably follows. Now, conclusion. He was an establishment figure and was a member of the House of Commons and the House of Lords for 37 years, a lawyer, attorney general, and a member of the Privy Council, the group which advises the monarch. He was incredibly popular in his days. We still utilize Bacon's method of proving knowledge to be true via doubt and experimentations. Bacon's philosophical work marked a very significant breakthrough for the study of the world around us. Bacon's essays are universal. They travel across years and all time they continue to remain popular because they are universal and again because they are unique.